There's something that I call the microengagement principle, and you can find a link for that and how it works really specifically with examples on my website and in my blog. But the idea is that at each of those four layers, end user, industry, small business specialist, and contracting, each of them has goals. This is the top of the performance appraisal, end of the year, big honking goal. Each of them has what I call milestones. They're the markers in the road. They're the things that tell us we're on track or we're not, that let us course correct throughout the year. And for players at each layer, there's the opportunity for what I call micro-engagement. I sometimes refer to this informally as catnip. What are the little things? What are the little things that can make a difference? Like that phone call just saying, thinking of you. A micro-engagement is an interaction that either of you can initiate that takes both of you toward your goals.
Hello, I'm Frank Felker. Welcome to a very special episode of Radio Free Enterprise. My guest today is Judy Bradt. As the founder and driving force behind Summit Insight, Judy has helped hundreds of federal contractors land over $350 million in new contracts. Judy Bradt, welcome back to Radio Free Enterprise.
Frank, thanks for having me back.
For those of you who subscribe to the audio edition of the podcast, you may note that this is season 21 of Radio Free Enterprise. And in the 20 plus years of podcasting and 50 plus years of studying entrepreneurship, I have never seen a time of such tumultuous change for business owners as we're seeing right now. Now, naturally, the federal workers losing their jobs are the ones most directly and immediately affected, and our hearts go out to them. But I've asked Judy to join us today to give some advice and encouragement to the industry, which is experiencing the next most direct and immediate effects, federal contractors. Judy has put together a message which I believe will give federal contractors not only some light in the darkness, but also some specific actionable steps they can take to ensure the survival of their companies going forward. Judy, thanks again for joining me. Where would you like to start?
Start where you are. I want to encourage folks who are listening to get out a piece of paper, something to write with, something to write on. If you're listening in the car, then be on high memory mode. We're going to have some ideas that you can use right away. And I hope some steps that give you support and momentum. So I want to start where you are. I'm kind of curious, and I'll bet you are too, Frank, about kind of how people are feeling right now, because people's feelings and experiences are all over the map. Thought about this as we were getting started, and I went, well, what if we took a poll about kind of resilience rating? So you can kind of do this for yourself. If you had to pick a number between 1 and 4, and if 1 right now you're feeling energized and enthusiastic, or 2, you're feeling cautious, you're hopeful but looking for ways to mitigate some risk, or 3, you're recovering, you've taken a hit and you're trying to figure out what the heck next, or you might be just simply struggling and confused. Any of those things, if you're feeling any of those feels, you're in the right place. And we're going to be here to bring you some ideas that you can use. Does that sound good?
That sounds good to me. And as you say, start where you are. How are you feeling?
Frank, early on in the time that we were getting to know each other, you knew me as an indoor rock climber. I'm also a private pilot. And since I got licensed in Canada in 1987, I've gotten to fly a lot of places and meet a lot of great people. And in 2008, I had the privilege of flying literally coast to coast in a light aircraft. And we were flying into places we'd never been before. And sometimes things got turbulent. And pilots have a phrase that we keep in mind when we're especially flying into unknown or turbulent conditions. It's aviate, navigate, communicate. Aviate, navigate, communicate. First, fly the airplane. Navigate. Know where you are. And then communicate as you need to. And in thinking about the turbulent times that businesses are facing in the government contracting arena, I went, what's the parallel? And I thought about it, and it's these three. It's investigate, navigate, advocate. Does that sound easy enough to remember?
Certainly. I'd love to know what's behind those three words.
Well, the first part, investigate, is get the facts. We're in a time of tremendous flow of information, and we're being bombarded by information from all kinds of sources, and not all of it is identical. And so we are also trying to make the best decisions we can for our businesses, for serving our current clients, and for taking care of our employees. And we need accurate facts to do that. So number one, when things are in a really turbulent, dynamic, uncertain business environment, start by getting the facts. And that includes from your clients. Ask them what's going on with them. They're on the ground. They're in the agencies. They know what they're actually seeing. And the closer your relationship with them, the more likely they're going to be able to tell you, here's what's real. Your own trusted network. Agency insiders. There are people who are inside agencies who really do know what's going on. If you have those relationships, they'll talk to you. And trusted subject matter experts that you know have their finger on the pulse. I know I've got 5 or 6 that I follow, that I trust, that experience has shown that I know I can ask them, hey, Steve, what's really going on? And so investigate and get facts before you share information that might not be correct and might set off a whole wave of unintended and not necessarily great consequences. So number one is investigate. Number two, it's the same thing with aviation and government contracting. Navigate. Figure out what the current rules are. Read your contract. Read rules and regulations. Communicate with your contracting officer. Listen to your government contracts attorney, especially if you're in a situation where you've been told that your contract may be terminated for convenience or have other kinds of stop work or postponements or cancellations. There are very specific things that if you do them right, you may have some recourse, some protection, some ways to mitigate what otherwise can be some really severe economic consequences and legal consequences. So navigate is still the second step. Get facts, and that includes reading the federal acquisition regulations. That may not be your favorite place to be, but you need to know what are the rules. And the third part is advocate. Speak up. You might be giddy with the kinds of changes you're seeing in government, or you might be truly concerned and frightened. Either way, make sure that your voice is heard. Communicate with your elected representatives. If you haven't done that before, I'm going to have some links for resources at the end, and I hope you can put them in the show notes, Frank.
Of course.
So I have got some resources from a site about just communicating with your elected representatives. And you might have an industry association that you're part of or had been part of in the past and haven't been very engaged with recently. Consider which of your association relationships have longstanding experience in and results with professional advocacy. One of those, Women Impacting Public Policy, for example, is a bipartisan advocacy organization, and I recently re-upped and stepped up my involvement. There's another organization that they have an app, 5calls.org, and you can put it on your phone and it makes it easy. You put in your zip code, it identifies your elected representatives and gives you some easy scripts to choose from if you want to know what to say. Because apparently phone calls are not only easy to make from the constituent point of view, but they require immediate attention and action on the part of the legislators. So call early and often. Make sure that your elected representatives know who you are and what concerns you. So those are the three then. Investigate, navigate, and advocate.
I love that. And I especially like the idea of communicating, reaching out, advocating, connecting with your elected officials. Let them know how you feel. Whether they do or not, they're supposed to be answerable to their constituents. And I think in most cases, they really do want to know what their constituents are thinking and feeling. Otherwise, they're not sure how to best represent us. So I applaud you for sharing that.
And I need to go and actually pick up the phone and do it. I've been busy doing a lot of other stuff. So, if you have to You're not alone. I want to encourage you to make regular contact with your elected representatives a part of your regular professional workflow. If your elected representatives don't know who you are, then make sure that the staffers know who you are, know what your business does, know how many people you employ, the economic impact you have, where you are. And because it doesn't make a great impression say, hi, you've never heard of me. I have a big problem and I want your attention right now. Really? Take a number. Make friends, say thank you, express appreciation, not just for the member, but also for their staff and the constituent support they provide. And then introduce yourself and say, here's the bucket of things that are going to matter to me, and I'm going to be in regular touch.
Great advice.
One of the things you encourage me to do is to bring forward some things that are practical. And, this is, like a lot of people, this is not my first rodeo with a time of tremendous change in the government contracting arena. And being able to think through what's important and pick some practical things to do. And some of those may be things to take care of yourself. Some things may be things to take care of your team. And some things may be to be genuinely helpful to others. And these are all really important. And between care, both self-care and care for others and care for community, and recognizing opportunities that may be emerging from out of all of this change, I came up with 10 ideas. And so you've kind of given me the opportunity to share those, and I'd like to do that. Sound good?
Please do. And I'm so glad you touched on that anytime there's change or crisis, there's also opportunity. It's the whole yin yang. And it's just a lot of it has to do with how you look at it.
It does. I have a lovely, sweet little ADHD brain, and that means my brain has never met a metaphor. It will follow over a cliff. And one of them, for me, it's a very big metaphor. Sometimes life's tectonic plates shift, and some things just simply crumble and disappear forever, but other things appear that have never been seen before. And if that image resonates with you, this is one of those times. So I want to offer 10 steps forward. The first, if you're a federal contractor today, perform exceptionally. And exceptional has a very specific definition in the Contractor Performance Assessment Rating System, or CPARS. So if you haven't looked up your CPARS, find out how your federal customer is rating your performance, and find out what the definition of the very best level of performance, exceptional, is. And commit to exceptional performance on every contract. You not only don't want to be causing problems for your cherished federal customers, you want to be helping them shine. And without them asking you to, that should always be your goal. But just within the bounds and limits and definitions of your statement of work in your contract, this is the time to outperform yourself right now. Be the least of their problems. Good for you, good for them.
Well, and that's, you may be touching on this in a moment. I hope I'm not stepping on it, Judy, but they're going through a tremendous time of change and turmoil as well. So anything you can do to make yourself at least less of a problem, if not a value, could be really helpful and noticed by them.
You bet. And it does, you're right, take me to my second thought.
I'm sorry.
That's good. It's perfect. People will forget what you did. People will forget what you said, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Take care of your federal humans. You and I have both gone through some hard times in our lives. Tell me, Frank, how did it feel for you when somebody just left you a message saying, "Hi, I've been thinking of you. No need to return the call. My thoughts are with you."
It makes a tremendous difference, and you never forget it.
Yeah. How hard is that? So the federal humans you're working with in the account, whether that's the person who's the frontline tech support person on Tier 1 help desk, or a program manager or a budget analyst, make your list, call them up and say, "Just wanted to let you know I'm thinking of you. No need to return the call. If you just want to talk, I'm here."
That's
You don't
great.
even have to offer the offer to talk, but just say, we're thinking of you. Don't ask for anything, but just let them know that you've got their backs. All right. These are tough, tough times. Now, third one, and some of these are good for all times of year, all kinds of situations. These are always good things to do. When you are in a good flow, you're having regular conversation, ask for referrals. Ask for referrals. Now, a lot of people get squeaked out about this. There's no need to do that. I want you to practice this phrase until it just feels natural. It just flows right out of your mouth. They're saying, hey, our business is growing and we're looking for new contracts. Our business is growing and we're looking for new contracts. How great. Who wouldn't want to talk to you? Really growing? How are you managing that? Just our business is growing and we're looking for new projects. If you were me, who would you be talking to? Who do you know who would like the same kind of superlative results and level of service that we've had in our work together? And would you introduce me? If you don't ask, you don't get.
That's great.
And so use that with discretion. It's not like you're going to do both of these two things back to back. Hi, we're thinking of you. Call the next day. Hi, who can you send me? Okay. So use a little discretion, but remember to ask for referrals. Next one. You may be facing a revenue shortfall. Figure it out. What's your number? What's the amount of business you've lost that you're looking to replace and over what period of time? Chunk it into bits and then start thinking, if you've got to start with a clean slate, remember that starting small, having ideas for small problems you can solve for less than $10,000, for less than $250,000. Those can be starting places, both in agencies where you are, in agencies that have had a huge churn in personnel. The dust will settle. The people who are remaining will eventually come out of the fog and the dust. There will be new people to talk to. Government may be in a state of great tumult and change right now. It's still functioning. And even in agencies that have experienced some extreme changes, there's still people who are there who have responsibilities. And so be thinking about not how can I help you, but put the words in a different order and say how I can help you. If you come to the door saying, how can I help you? You're giving them homework. You think they haven't got enough to do right now?
Sure.
Instead, say how I can help you. All right. And so think about those small things.
Can you give me an example of how I can help you?
Absolutely, which takes me to my next one. For example, you're getting lots and lots of requests from the new administration into the agencies to have reports and dashboards and who's doing what and all kinds of status reports. If you are in any kind of a niche where you can provide reporting, dashboards, snapshots, data to make it easier for your clients to feed information up to people who are banging on the door saying, what up? Great. Make sure that the status reports you're supposed to be routinely providing with your projects and deliveries are up to date. But anything you can do to give them that information and make it available instantly for them, wouldn't that be a service? So
Tremendous.
That's an example of something small. Another one. And now we're getting into stuff that may be bubbling out of change, stuff that becomes obvious when the tectonic plates shift. You have a new administration that is very receptive to artificial intelligence, automated solutions in a time when, in fact, if they are removing thousands of federal employees from a lot of positions, then how can artificial intelligence tools or automated solutions help make up the shortfall of work? There are things that you can look at and go, only humans can do some of these things. There may be other things that the opportunities for AI may be accelerated or maybe suddenly appearing in front of you. These are ideas. They aren't going to work for everybody. But the other thing is, for example, in agencies that are going to be closed or shuttered, there's been buildings will still have to be cleaned and maintained. It may very well be that if a property is going to be sold, for example, it's still going to need to be cleaned and readied for new tenants. So people who are doing facilities management, janitorial cleaning, different kind of opportunity, not the opportunity you might have been looking for, but something else to think about. 7, and this gets interesting because I was looking at some history on this, anticipate greater outsourcing of services. Back in the mid-90s, the Clinton administration went through a whole wave of reinventing government. And I've got a chart here that you can share as well that shows that there was a period where federal employee count was drawn down and the contractor count went down. And then after it hit a particular point, the contractor count went up. Even though the federal employee numbers went down, there was only so much. And so I am not an economist, but that for me makes me wonder whether there's only so much pressure that a government can withstand when there aren't enough resources to do it. And then there need to be contractors again. So anticipate some possibility of outsourced services and make friends. Stay friends, invest in those relationships.
If I may interject, that also, one of the things it says to me, first off, that makes perfect sense. But we've got to let the dust settle and a few things happen. But it also points up how important it is to ensure the survival of your business through this period, because the potential exists for even greater opportunities on the other side.
Just getting there can be challenging. I had this conversation with someone last week, and sometimes being able to do a little bit of pivot if you are in an industry where large corporations are also potential clients for you. If you are woman-owned or minority-owned, then being able to shift some focus over to relationships you may have through your certifying organization, whether that's the Women's Business Enterprise National Council for women-owned businesses or the National Minority Supplier Development Council for minority-owned businesses. Both of those provide the entree to relationships with Fortune 500 companies, the country's largest companies, who are also actively seeking vendors. So if you haven't tapped that network and you do have qualification or certification there, that may be the time to dial up or re-tap that network that you may have paid less attention to.
That's a great idea, Judy.
Thanks. Along the lines of our theme about AI, also watch for IT modernization. Those large IT projects that have been in train may accelerate. So look for services moving to the cloud, other kinds of consolidation of IT projects. So watch out for those as well. Monitor those. If you're a candidate to perform those, you may find other things bubbling up in that space. I love number 9. And you can quote me on this, Frank. No one can take away your past performance. Nobody can take away your past performance. You might be concerned about the fate of small business programs. As we're speaking here, there have been no changes to federal small business contracting preference programs. We're still in a time of tremendous change. Anything can happen. The best federal contracting consultants have always been saying, lo these many years, lead with your past performance. Don't lead with your small business certifications. There's never been a better time to refresh your collateral, buff up or do an alternate version of your capability statement and your website to emphasize those things that set you apart from everyone else, especially, and you'll see an example on one of the slides here, for example, RJC Enterprises right at the top, line number 2, making you shine for over 35 years. Years in business, boom, right up at the top. Buried somewhere in the 10-point type is, oh yeah, here's our certification list. But the thing that they are putting front and center is their past performance. And Russ and Nancy would tell you, in the whole 35 years that we have been in business, we have never lost a customer.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Or Liberty Language Services. And this is kind of getting into our next thing where we're talking about section when we're talking about best values. Liberty Language Services offers the ability to tap over 130 different languages, and they can find you a translator or interpreter in less than 30 seconds.
Wow.
For any of 130 languages.
That's amazing.
Top that. Now, there's something that stands out. Are you going to remember that about them? I do. And I see dozens of capability statements all year long, but that one really stands out. And those are the kinds of best values that you really want. The last momentum idea that I have for you is hire, if you're in a position to do that, hire departing federal employees. You have a whole raft of people who were in young people, hard to find. The federal acquisition workforce had been aging out. There was a whole raft, thousands of people who were passionate about public service, in learning the job, in their probationary period of their dream job, and they're just axed. They're just devastated. They're on the street. They are well qualified, well educated, fired up, dedicated people with a public service ethos. Aren't those the kinds of people you want to have on your team? There's a website that was created by Brian Levine, who I've checked out and exchanged some notes with, called formergov.com, formergov.com. And so check that out. It is a place for both employee seekers and potential employees. And I'll have some more links to that for show notes and in the resources section at the end.
Wow, that's a big one.
It is. And so with all that, those are a mix of ideas for actions you can take, both looking in and looking out. And so we got to talk to our people. We've got to communicate and build relationships. And your federal buyer is more than one person. There's players you need to know who they are at all 5 layers and build relationships at 4 of them. And do we have a couple of minutes? Can I talk a little bit about that to try and straighten that out and break that out?
Oh, please, sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there are 5 people you need to know, and write it down. Here they are. End user, the industry or prime, the small business specialist, the contracting officer, and then the one that you need to know who they are because they are the boss setting the priorities, but they're not in the room when you get chosen. That's a stakeholder. That's the administration senior appointee, the cabinet secretary, the CIO, the base commander. So you've got to know who the big boss is so you can watch and listen for the things that they're saying and publishing. But the other 4, every place you want to win a federal contract, you need to know who they are and build relationships. There are 3 things they all want. Follow the rules, make it easy, make me look good. And if you think about a Venn diagram, then we as vendors need to be at the crossover in the sweet spot where all 3 of those things happen. But then what's on their minds right now? I did a little tag cloud. What are federal employees thinking about? Inclusion, buyout, hiring, workforce efficiency, return to work, resignation, freeze, department, telework, equity. This is the stuff that's keeping them up at 3 a.m. And with all that floating around, how do you even get through? Why are they going to talk to us? I go back to the advice of someone I know that you know and probably admire, Zig Ziglar. And you can have everything in life that you want if you will just help other people get what they want. You can have everything in life that you want if you'll just help other people get what they want. Follow the rules, make it easy, make them look good. But how that really shows up for the players at all 4 of those layers is different for people in each role. I love what happens, though, when somebody makes that shift. Audie Cooper, CEO of JCTM, a group of former Marines who are providing professional services in the intelligence community, they made this shift about 2 or 3 years ago. And they said, we don't sell, we solve. We don't target clients or customers. We support and enable solutions. This approach resonated well with our team and gave them the confidence to continue engaging with our clients. Everything changed for them when they made it about them. There's something that I call the microengagement principle, and you can find a link for that and how it works really specifically with examples on my website and in my blog. But the idea is that at each of those 4 layers, end user, industry, small business specialist, and contracting, each of them has goals. This is the top of the performance appraisal, end of the year, big honking goal. Each of them has what I call milestones. They're the markers in the road. They're the things that tell us we're on track or we're not, that let us course correct throughout the year. And for players at each layer, there's the opportunity for what I call microengagement. I sometimes refer to this informally as catnip. What are the little things? What are the little things that can make a difference? Like that phone call just saying, thinking of you. A microengagement is an interaction that either of you can initiate that takes both of you toward your goals. These don't just pop out of the woodwork spontaneously. If they do, great, but they can be ephemeral. Grab one, write it down, and going, oh, this worked. Let's remember to do this, bring this kind of thing to the person in this role. So you want to start to generate some micro engagement ideas so that you're always bringing something to your people. Because I'll tell you, your federal buyer is actually not all that different from the average 6-year-old who's standing at the door waiting for you to come back from a trip. And the closer you're coming to the door, the bigger they seem to get. But there's this big thought balloon. And it says, Mom, what did you bring me? Mom, what did you bring me? So have the answer to that question, because our federal buyers are just human. And one of the best things you can bring them, the best way to answer that question, is to clearly tap into what I call best values. Some people call those unique value propositions or differentiators. But not only knowing what yours are, but being able to use them wisely helps you stay top of mind for when the dust settles, when the fog clears, when your federal buyer's ready to accept your offer of expertise or help. So a best value expresses what's unique about your company, has value to your buyer, resonates with the player at a specific layer. They are specific to your team, your approach, your offering, or your partners. And they're ideally quantifiable and objectively verifiable. So world-class solutions is not a best value. Family-owned business, that's not a best value either. All right, to give you some idea. All right. But best values are most powerful when your company's unique assets or qualities translate easily into selection criteria that your buyer values so much that they can specify that criteria in the mandatory or desirable selection criteria of a solicitation to justify choosing you even at a higher price.
That's great stuff. That is great stuff. I've always been a big believer in delivering a premium product or service for a premium price, and thereby attracting premium clients who are interested in workmanship and quality and sustainability and all these types of things.
And these, if you're wondering, well, what are ours? These are things that if you look at your past performance, they bubble up out of what you look. What do we do? What do we do really well? What do we do so well that we could do a lot of this all day long and do it profitably and have people just over the moon with joy? The things that are generating that experience, that's where your best values are. You don't need that many of them, 3 or 4 tops.
Yeah, I agree.
35 years in business, never lost a customer. 130 languages in 30 seconds. How hard is that? So when do you use your best values? The shorter answer is everywhere. Use them in your voicemail. Put them in the footer of your email. For sure, list them in your capability statement. Put them on your website. Use them in conversations. Use them consistently, appropriate to the level and interest of your players at the different layers as well. And map them to the needs of the people that you're in front of. I've shared in our notes a chart where you can just simply set up 4 columns, 1 for each of the roles and 3 rows. What's important to them? What are your best values that you care about? And your answer to the question, how I can help you. And so lay it out, because that becomes a starting point every time you're planning a call or a meeting. What do we want to make sure we bring to the party?
That is some great stuff, Judy. Now, you've obviously given this a great deal of thought on top of your decades of experience. how can somebody reach out to you, and what sort of help can you give to federal contractors who are going through this tumult right now and looking for a hand?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the easiest thing to do. You can also, and I'll give you a link for show notes, you can apply for a conversation. Some folks I'm able to go and set up an office call with. Other folks I have for better or worse, I have what I call some drive time opportunities. I live in Southern Maryland. I moved there 3 years ago, and I now drive a lot more than I expected. And some of the drive is on an easy road without a lot of traffic, and that means that I may have an opportunity where, with the drive time call, you can get on the calendar. I'm not going to record it. I'm not going to take notes. I'm going to give you useful stuff, so it's helpful if you take notes, and you can ask me any 3 things you want. So typically in 30 minutes, we can cover about 3 things, and it makes my drive easier and lets me be helpful to you, which I like. So
that's great. A friend of mine used to refer to that as windshield time.
Yeah, sometimes you're with windshield, sometimes you're the bug.
You're the bug, right?
But it's a Mary Chapin Carpenter song. It's quite wonderful. We covered a lot. We covered 3 steps for resilience. So that's investigate, navigate, advocate. And I've got some resources that I'm going to share right here in the slides and in the show notes for all 3 of those. And 10 steps for momentum and tapping opportunity and some other things. Can I kind of go through the goodies?
As quick as you can. That would be great.
Okay. Got it. So I want you listening to this to think about what your biggest aha or takeaway is from our session today. But I want to take a quote from Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers. Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping.
Oh, that's great, Judy.
When you're in times of tumult, that's what the advice his mom used to give him when he would get upset and see disturbing things on the news. And his mom would tell him, look for the helpers. So I spend my time looking for the helpers.
I love that.
So advocacy resources, I've got 3. One is KQED, has oddly enough on PBS, who brought us Fred Rogers, has some just generic advice. You want to talk to your representatives, whatever the side of the political spectrum you're on, here's the steps to take. 5calls.org, where I've got a QR code where you can download the app for your phone. And as an example of a leading bipartisan advocacy organization, where to contact women impacting public policy. Next up, find safe and supported space. There are people who are routinely bringing together government contractors for support, to exchange ideas, to get help. William Randolph, CEO and founder of micromarket.co, who's a former naval contracting officer, former senior acquisition professional at DHS. William Randolph, and you can find his contact information there and on LinkedIn, is holding a regular Mindset Monday for government contractors. He would love to see you. So that's another one. The other thing is, get out of your head. I was realizing when we were preparing this, I have a way that I can help. And this comes back to how you and I met. Twice a month, on the 2nd Tuesday of the month at Rio in Gaithersburg and the 4th Thursday of the month at Sport Rock in Alexandria, I bring together government employees, active military, and government contractors for an indoor rock climbing social. We call it GovCon Rock Stars. And I've realized what our tagline really is these days. We lift you up in every way. So this is the place, whether you are looking for a job, looking for an employee, just want to feel like somebody has literally got your back, we would welcome you. So there's a QR code. Join the mailing list, even if you're not ready to come out now. I've been a professional rock climbing instructor for almost 2 decades. I've literally taught over 1,000 people to go up a wall. We have got you, and we would love to see you.
Well, Judy Bradt, professional rock climbing instructor, private pilot, scuba diver, and CEO of Summit Insight. Thank you so much for sharing all of this wisdom and advice with us today.
Thanks, Frank. Just remember, everyone who's listening, you are not alone. Reach out, get help, get support. We will get through this together. Frank, thanks for having me.
Thanks again to Judy. And thank you for joining us. Until next time, I'm Frank Felker saying, I'll see you on the radio.